This week on London Real, we have Ivana Chubbuck, acting coach for Brad Pitt, Jared Leto, Jim Carrey, and Beyonce.
I love being the force, the inspiration, and the motivator.
I want to thank Ivana Chubbuck. I could have never figured out who the heck this lady was without you.
I think the best teachers are egoless. I'm about you. Your growth makes me happy. Whatever applies to being successful in the acting world applies to any business. Actors are the weirdest animals. The more pain you're in, the more you go, yes. I want to keep seeing that person. It makes me feel like I can overcome my stuff. That's how a star is born.
London Real presents Ivana Chubbuck, The Power of the Actor.
Let's figure out what makes you so sabotage yourself.
We are having a heat wave here in London, England. It's getting a little crazy when the sun's out and people get a little excited. This week on the show, we have a very special lady. Her name is Ivana Chubbuck, and she is one of the world's best acting coaches. She counts as some of her clients Brad Pitt, Jim Carrey, Halle Berry. The list goes on and on and on. And on the show, she talks about these individual stories she had when coaching them, things that she taught them on specific movies, and you can go and see exactly what she's all about. She's written a book called The Power of the Actor, which has been translated to like 12 different languages. Ivana's very old school. She just reminds me of like something from Los Angeles from like the 70s, and she's been there and done that, and she's got a lot of really fascinating ideas that don't just translate into acting, they translate into kind of like life lessons. And part of one of the things she teaches in acting is that you don't want to try to cover up your things that you're uncomfortable with or things that you feel bad about, because those are the things you actually can use in acting to kind of magnify your character. And as an actor, you want to find out, those little tragedies about your character and then take them to give hope to the audience. So it's a real fascinating view as far as how she approaches her craft. So I think you really love this, and like I said, I just feel like we're getting a slice of the past of Hollywood when talking to Ivana. So it's a lot of fun. She's also a little feisty too, which I quite like a lot. So there you go. I think you'll really enjoy her. I'm walking through Old Street Station here, which is really an institution here in Shoreditch. It's changing constantly with the different shops, and of course it's got the Tube, which is one of the greatest pieces of technology in the world, the transportation system here in London. I love it, and you have to go on it when you come here because it's really part of what the city is all about. So there you go, walking through here in rush hour. If you want to get London Real episodes straight into your email first thing, it's really simple. All you have to do is give us your email address on one of the pop-ups that come up on the website, or just sign up, and you will get the show before anyone else does on Sunday at like noon or 11 o'clock. Click on, you get the full episode link, and it all comes straight to you. So definitely get involved. You might actually be getting that email, but it might be going to your spam folder. So just check your spam now, or if you're on Gmail, make sure it's in your primary folder. And like I said, you'll be in our VIP club. You also get all the news and the blogs first. You get offered our event access very first as well. So get part of that. As I say, the sun just continues. It's just really crazy here when this happens. I know I'm from California, but I forget about the sun sometimes. And I just wanted to give a big shout out to Mr. Dave Asprey, the Bulletproof exec himself, and this guy who's playing the saxophone right behind me, which is pretty dope, very New York. But the guys at Bulletproof are longtime sponsors of the show. I now make a huge pot of coffee every morning that's bulletproof, which is with the grass-fed butter, the brain octane oil, and it's really kind of a meal in the morning that is this coffee and these good fats. So please check that out. There's also the Bulletproof Diet book, which is an amazing read, and more exciting things coming from the Bulletproof guys soon. So more information about that shortly. And that's it. If you got some guest suggestions from me, always hit me up, Brian at londonreal.tv. I hope you enjoyed the Dan Pena event trailer. If not, check that out. Also, lots of my individual vlogs are coming every day. My Ask Me Anything, what I read, how I train, and what I eat. So thanks for watching those. If you're enjoying this video, please click on the subscribe button below, and that way you'll get all of those straight to your inbox. And that's it. That's all I got to say. I'm going to leave you now with Miss Ivana Chubbuck. This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Ivana Chubbuck, who is an acting coach and author whose students include Brad Pitt, Halle Berry, Jared Leto, Terrence Howard, Jim Carrey, Beyonce, and many, many more. Your book, The Power of the Actor, The Chubbuck Technique, has been translated into over 10 languages. You take things from the script into a living, breathing, dynamic character. You've been featured in the New York Times, Vanity Fair, People Magazine, USA Today, and Cosmopolitan. Ivana, welcome to London Real.
Hello. I feel duly welcome.
Yeah, I've been said I'm really good about my introduction. So, what you do is really fascinating, and we've never had anyone on the show, that does what you do. And I really want to find out about the techniques and everything that's in your book, and hear what it's like to train, some of the best in the world. But I also, before we started, I wanted to find out, how does someone become an acting teacher? And is that something that you found yourself drawn to? Did you find yourself being pulled to Hollywood, California, or did this kind of come in a different way?
Well, what happens, I came to Hollywood or Los Angeles to become an actress. And I found that when I was working, people, actors always help each other out. That's what we do. We take care of one another. And so I'd be giving notes to my fellow actors, and they'd be giving me notes. But I would find that they did some of their best work when I was giving them their notes. So people would come to me and they'd say, would you just work with me? And all of a sudden I had a lineup of people who wanted to work with me. And then I started charging, and I built a school around it. And then I ended up, like right now I have 2 theaters, six teachers teaching for me, over 17 classes going on, like something like 600 students. And I teach just the master classes. And what happened was it came a point where I found that I liked the idea of empowering people and creating and inspiring people better than I liked being the talent myself. And that inspired me more, that motivated me more. I used to find myself on a set and working as an actress, and I'd look at my watch constantly because I was bored, didn't like it to be about me. And when I was coaching people and teaching people, the hours went by so fast. And I find that time is an interesting element in our worlds. We can tell, even though it's the same amount of time goes by, an hour is an hour is an hour seems like 10 seconds when you're really enjoying yourself and you're passionate about something. An hour, on the other hand, feels like it could be a whole day when you're bored, or when you don't have an interest in what it is that you're doing. And so I decided to totally quit acting, even though I work with a lot of directors and a lot of producer writers who offer me jobs all the time. I work with some major, major people. And I turned it down without a modicum, not even the tiniest bit of like, maybe I should take that role. That's how much I love what I do. I love being the force, the inspiration, and the motivator. Interesting story, which I've never told anybody before, but I was in Israel to do, my book came out in Hebrew, and I was in Israel, and I was on a special tour, and they took me to a place below that only special people could go into, and I was considered one of those people. It made me feel very good. That you go underneath the Wailing Wall, and it's a special place you have to be invited to. That's considered the most spiritual place on the planet, and you really do feel it. It's a tiny little area. It's all rock, and you're supposed to like put your hands on the rock wall and ask for something. And what I asked for is, I said, God, powers that be, whatever, because this is the most spiritual place in the world, inspire me to inspire others to greatness. That's what I asked for. That's who I am, and that's what I'm about. So being the person in front of the camera means I have to be celebrated, and I don't really care about that. What I want to do is spread some kind of word that allows people to take the victimization out of their lives, to take the destructive things that happen, pain, drama, trauma. It happens to everyone. How you take that information and access it into how you live your life is the difference between dynamic people, successful people, and people who are the losers of the world.
There's that time. I know Halle Berry was one of your students, and there's that point in Monsters Ball where she takes this really pain and what could be really a tragic moment, and she uses it kind of in an empowering way, and really got everyone to kind of feel really empathetic towards her. Is that kind of a great example of kind of your technique or what you're going for?
Absolutely. It's like taking um, because her tragedy in that movie is she lost her husband on death row, her son to a car accident, her job, her home. She's with a white guy whose family is very bigoted and doesn't want him to be with her. I mean, there's like so much loss is happening in her life. So what we did was we made choices about how do we take that and not and re-look at that information with an inner monologue of what we were using, not the dialogue because it wasn't on the page, but create an inner monologue of like what I had her think was, I can't keep having bad things happen to me all the time. I'm just gonna fall apart. I'm gonna end up dying. I mean, either by my own hand or spiritual death. So I have to kind of re-look at this information a different way. And I got to look at the fact that I found out that the guy I'm in love with lied to me, which was the final straw of all the things kind of coming to a head, and see that not as a lie, but maybe as such an act of such love. Because if I were to find out that he what he knew was the truth, he might lose me. And it was such an act of love, the kind of love I've never had before, the kind of love that I need, and the kind of love that I want to embrace. So by the end of the movie, this is all without dialogue, it was a silent piece of the movie. She went from hurting, being angry, being pissed, falling apart, to the change in her thought process, to take it and see it as a positive. So by the time he comes home, she actually looks at him, and our inner monologue to him was, "Thank you for loving me that much." And then I had her look up to God and say, "Thank you, God." And it's all without dialogue. And so we turned the most horrible negatives into the most amazing positive, all through the work I do.
And she has to relive that moment on the screen, kind of, in that sequence in order to get that acting and that empathy across on camera. I mean, that's very complex stuff, and stuff that the average moviegoer won't even know that you might have worked weeks on that behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. A lot of people don't understand that how much work a great actor does. It's not by accident. It's not because they have natural talent. It's not because they're beautiful or handsome. It really is a lot of work. And that particular part, she was in it like maybe she seemed like she was in it all the time. She really wasn't. She just was a force on camera. She was maybe in 50% of the film. There was a lot of side stories going on. But we worked on that 30 hours, and that's just in my home where we were working on it privately, and then I was on set as well. So it
The thing that
was,
fascinates me about the film is that they're ultimately going to take, a piece of 10 seconds here and a piece of 30 seconds there. So to get it all happening, and then to get it to happen when everything's ready and the pressure's on, I mean, I guess that's a different level of professionalism.
well, again, it's why people who, you know, kind of fly their butt over to Hollywood and they say, "I'm good looking. I have a natural talent. I was in the high school play." It's just like you got to do the work. You got to study. Um, it's a lot of work to understand how to be prepared in a moment's notice. But there's a lot of pre-work you got to do, a lot of study you got to do, to be prepared to be in the environment at all. Um, Jaimin Hansu he was up for an Oscar for Amistad, and he's somebody that all the press said that Steven Spielberg discovered him in Africa. He is African, but they said because he was the right type and all this kind. People want to believe the urban legends that they're just not true. Well, he was in my class for 3 years. He went to an audition like anybody else did, and he booked the job with many a callback, audition, a callback, a callback, a callback, and then he finally booked the job and then worked on the part. But 3 years of study first. Charlize Theron was working in my class for years before she got Devil's Advocate, and we worked really hard on that audition. She had 10 callbacks, and each time they kept saying, well, you're not the right type, you're too pretty, you're not from the right, type, because you're supposed to be some small town Florida girl. You have the right accent, you're too young, all this stuff. But the audition was such a force that they had to cast her. So it was like every time she'd go in, they'd say, well, it's not going to go any further. But then they'd bring her back. And then they say it's not going to get any further. And this happened so many times. And each time she'd come to me, we spent hours on the audition and up the game, more details, more depth, more humor, more just giving details, 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 details. Greatness is in details. Greatness is always in details, and again, I say to people all the time, whatever applies to being successful in the acting world applies to any business. Hard work, education, working hours that you wouldn't want to work normally, so it's not a 9 to 5 thing. You work, I mean, when you're shooting, you work like from 6 in the morning till 11 o'clock at night. But when you're studying, and you have to usually have some straight job, or you're a waiter. Brad Pitt had like 3 stupid jobs at the same time he was studying, and was always studying, and he was always working hard. I expect 6 to 8 hours a week of rehearsal time. He would do 2 to 3 hours a day, to the point where his scene partners in class would complain that he wanted to rehearse too much.
See, most people see Brad Pitt and they say, oh, natural talent. He just does it like that.
It's a lot. It's years of study and
Right.
always wanting to like rehearse, rehearse, rehearse. Did his homework. There's a great story that he was asked in class to do a scene for an agent, because sometimes to get an agent you have to put up a scene for them to see if they like you. And this girl had credits. He had none. He was just studying in class and just working his ass off, doing those 3 straight jobs that were horrible jobs. When he was a chicken in front of a chicken company, come in and eat some chicken. He drove prostitutes around to their johns. He sold cigarettes at the games. I mean, like terrible jobs, not well-paying jobs to pay for his acting classes. And so she wanted to rehearse one time before she put it up for the agents, and he just was, that's not the cloth he's cut from. And so he said, she only wants to rehearse once. Can we do some privates? And so I can make sure that I have all the work done, all the detail work done, and I want all the layers and the richness that this part has. And even though it was for her audition, every time you perform, you're performing. It's like you should take it very seriously. So what happens, they went, and he was very prepared because we had worked on it so much. She worked on it the one time with him. And again, she had credits, he had none. And this is a big agency. They took him, didn't take her.
What is it?
Because
in
he
the-
was prepared.
He was prepared.
This is work ethic.
Right.
Work
Right.
ethic is so important. Education's so important.
What is it in the greats like Brad? Is it the perfectionism? Is it that he's competing with himself? What is it that you see in the people that consistently either work hard or deliver?
I think I think it's just really simply this. You have to work really hard, but some people are just like real work. They work really, really hard, but they never get anywhere. Why? Because they don't take risks. You gotta take risks. And it's not just the risk in the choices of the films you do, or the parts that you choose to play. More importantly, in the choices that you make within the material, like making bolder choices, really digging deep, exposing stuff that's really dark things that most people are too fearful to expose, because it takes great courage to expose like the truth of who you really are. It takes more courage to expose the truth of who you are, the stuff that makes you fearful, the stuff that makes you insecure, the stuff that has happened to you. There's so much shame in people's worlds, and so it takes more courage to expose, to take the risk, to expose, to really go for it, to really push the envelope, to cross lines, to say boundaries are meant to be crossed, rules are meant to be broken, than it does to take a motorcycle and cross 10 buses. It takes more courage to do that. I've worked with some people that are like, God, world champion boxers, athletes that are fearless in the athletic world, but then it comes time to really take chances as an actor, to make choices that really reveal themselves. They're scared shitless, and that's
Right.
why it's very rare when sports figures actually make the transition.
Because they can't go to those scary places in their own mind, in their own body, and access that the way that a
Because it's
trained actor
because
can.
it's scarier.
Right, right.
It's one thing to say like I'm strong, I'm big, I can kick a ball, whatever, than it is to say that I fear. I have issues with my mother, and my mother is very abusive, and I take that with me, and I walk with that, and I have problems in my personal relationships because of it. They don't want to go there. They don't want to deal with it personally. They don't want to deal with it. They don't want other people to know about it, and it's like it's risk takers that always any field. You got to take risks. You got to work hard, and you got to take risks. There isn't anything that is in any way a prestigious thing to get, from being president to being heads of corporations to inventing things, whatever. You have to take risks and work really hard. It's the way it goes. It's like, what is it? Was it Edison that said 99% perspiration, 1% inspiration? 99% perspiration, 1% inspiration.
Right. And on the screen, all we see is that final, color graded shot. And so I think it's so hard for us as the public to see all the work that goes underneath, because it sounds like you're training Olympic athletes. It sounds like you're training people that, take years and years and years and years to do that
And
final.
everything is like it's a stepping stone.
Right. Does a great performance have to channel some type of pain or some type of an inner peace that you have to take a risk to get to? Is that a definition?
I'm sorry, what?
Is a great performance, does it have to come from a person accessing some kind of pain inside
Well, it
them?
doesn't necessarily have to be pain, but it has to be something that you want to overcome. It doesn't necessarily require pain. It's like I try to make um, my technique is based in this. Take whatever it is, insecurities, fears, a trauma you're going through, split up you're going through, whatever it is you're going through or live with, and that you'd like to get rid of, is use the material in front of you to infuse that in. You already own it, and then to use it to impassion and fuel your ability to overcome it. So on the other side, that you become a winner because of the pain. And so it's about winning in spite of and because of the things that you're going through, what you want to overcome. And within the environment of the script, what you're doing is overcoming it for the character, therefore overcoming it for you because you live apart, and therefore your audience, because it's primal realities. I've done workshops all over the world, and I've come to find that in all places, like the Philippines, Russia, Scandinavian countries, Australia, South America, Canada, here, Italy, pretty much everywhere in the world, every environment in the world, right? Everybody's the same. Everybody has the same fears. Everybody has the same issues with their relationships, with their parents, with their it's crazy how it is the same. And so if you, as an actor or writer, director, take the information, the pain or the fears that the person is going through, and you're using the material to use it to fuel your ability to overcome and win, what happens is the audience says, I'm going through the same thing. And if they can overcome and win, maybe so can I. And therefore, you give hope to your audience that they can prosper in spite of and because of the things that they're going through. That's how a star is born. Because I want to keep seeing that person that makes me feel like I can overcome my stuff. And most of the time, most acting techniques are about just getting to the truth and just feeling the pain and going through that. But that to me is like we don't like being around people that are always complaining, and they're always, I mean, truthfully, always, oh, my boyfriend broke up with me, or I just lost my job, or I can't cut a break, and they're truthful and they're honest, but who wants to be around those people? Those people are annoying because they just bring you down. They suck you. They're like little black holes, you know. They suck your life juice away from you, and though you love them and they're your friends or family or whatever, it's hard to be around them. So I always say to my actors and my directors and my writers, I say, look, if you don't want to be around those people for free, why would you pay to have somebody do the same thing on screen or on stage, right?
Right. So it's not just about communicating emotion.
Not at
A great
all.
actor needs to instill
It's
empathy in the
No, don't
audience.
forget empathy.
No.
It's the obligation to allow people to say that you could take the worst of circumstances and change them.
Okay. Even
So,
that. Even
so
that.
fuck empathy.
Okay.
Okay? So empathy only gets us like, oh, I'm sorry. I feel your pain. So what? Doesn't change me. That doesn't change you. So I want people to be able to walk away from the performances that I helped create and say, I can change my life too. I could have a better life.
So inspiration.
Totally.
Okay.
To inspire people that they have hope, that anything is possible, anything can change, that you have the ability to do so, and that the arts, anybody in the arts, whether you're a writer or a dancer or a painter, has the obligation to disturb sensibilities enough for them to understand the ability to change them. That you have the power. You do have the power. So my book is called The Power of the Actor. It's about if I'm empowered, I always I will not let my actors make victim choices, because it's like you're better than that. And this is what you're putting out to people. So you have to be empowered. Therefore, you're creating empowerment in the other person that you're working with. Therefore, it comes back at you, and then the audience gets all that, and the audience is then therefore empowered and given permission, inspiration, the motivation to do something, to change their lives. In Russia, the my book is a big bestseller. Now, not just for the general community, because people are using it as a self-help book, because it defines how you would take a character and be able to like take pain, trauma, your issues and fears and all that stuff, and how to actually turn it around and use it to fuel your ability to overcome and win, right? And so a lot of people are using it for just to help make them have better lives, to change their lives. Halle Berry was walking down the beach in South Beach, and she saw this girl sitting on the beach reading my book. And she said, hey, so you like this book? She said, well, I love this book. And she said, so you're an actress? And she said, no. She said, well, what do you do? And she said, she's in pre-med. And so she said, well, she said, this is a great book for medicine. It's a great book for me to be a healer, because it will help me empower people to be able to know that they can get over what a disease that they have, because part of it is your psyche. And so you admit to your disease and you get defeated by your disease, you will therefore be committed to die or be debilitated.
What is Can you
By the way, I got to tell you a
Yeah.
great story about.
Go ahead.
There's another story I haven't told you. I've told my class, but I haven't told anybody on the air. So this is a really important story. Make-A-Wish Foundation. You know about the Make-A-Wish Foundation, yes?
But for people that don't know, can you explain it? Maybe in the
A
UK.
Make-A-Wish is when kids are dying of some disease. They have a wish to make. And so often it's like, I want to meet my favorite sports star. There was one kid who did, he wanted to be Superman for the day, so he would, or Spider-Man or one of those characters. So the actual town he lived in, he created his day where he could save people and do all this stuff. It's Make-A-Wish, for kids that are dying. So there's a little girl from Toronto, and her wish was, she's 14, she had read my book, and it was her Bible. She was reading it over and over again. She was dying of bone cancer. And so I was supposed to fly out there. And the day before I was supposed to fly out there, she was in the hospital. She said, she didn't say anything. They told me that she was too sick and she was going to go into surgery right away. They couldn't find a donor that was a match. They got with the closest they could, which was her father, but it was a long shot. They said it'd be a miracle if it happened. So would you talk to her on the phone? And so I talked to her on the phone. I said, you read the book many, many times, and it says you got to believe that whatever it is that is the problem, that you have the ability to overcome and accomplish whatever you want. And she says, yes. And I said, okay, you're about to go into surgery, and I know the adults told you that it's a miracle if anything happens. Essentially, they're giving you your death certificate. But you've read my book many, many times, and I'm going to say this. Do you believe that you're supposed to be on this planet to accomplish something great? Yes. Well, don't you have to be alive for that? Yes. So I want you to go into that surgery knowing that this is going to work. Absolutely. Because you have to be alive, because you have to accomplish something that you have to be alive and be an adult to accomplish. Okay. She goes into surgery. I get a call 2 weeks later that she's in remission. It was a miracle that happened. Changed her wish to come out to LA and take a couple of classes, of which she did. And it's been about 3 years now, and she doesn't have any cancer left. Her mother came up to me with tears in her eyes saying, thank you for saving my daughter's life. It was that conversation and the belief of the mind that was so... That's the whole thing about belief, about the idea that you can't just give in to anything that's destructive in your life. You can't. You gotta find the way to. What are you supposed to learn from this? How are you supposed to grow from this? How can you change from this? It is the power of who we are. They say we only use 6% of our mind. Well, there's a lot more to go. This leaves us something like 94%.
Yeah, a lot left.
If I do my. But then I got another story about that too. I think this is really important. This is really important.
Okay, all right. I want to ask you a question about what it's like, in one of your classes. So.
Okay, you guys screw my class. This is more important. There's people who aren't actors. A lot of people who aren't actors out there. My brother who was a doctor, was given. He was told he had cerebral palsy, and he did have cerebral palsy, and he had all these operations that were wrongly given to him and stuff like that because they didn't know that he had cerebral palsy. So they started giving him meds, and nothing was working. And then they put him on this program. They said it was an experimental program, and who knew it was going to work or not. So I had a conversation with him. I said, you're a doctor, and you know those studies that they have where they give people placebos and they give people the actual meds. And the studies show that the same amount of people get healed on the placebos that get healed on the actual meds themselves. Knowing that, and I know you're a doctor, and you want to think that, well, this is going to be difficult to work because doctors are very cynical, I said, you need to go into placebo land, and you need to say, this is going to work. And it did.
You should be a doctor, too. Let me ask you a question about men. I was listening to Arnold Schwarzenegger's book, Total Recall, and he said that when he moved from bodybuilding to acting, he had to get in touch with his feelings, which is something that he had been taught most of his life, like a lot of us have, that you're not supposed to be in touch with your feelings. And so that was for him like a 180-degree change. And I was wondering if it's different when you try to teach men, or to teach men that have come from other industries or sports, like you said, to do like a 180, or am I getting it simplistically?
No, it's not simplistic. It's I think that it doesn't necessarily. It's about who you are as a person that makes some people more difficult to open up than others. It's like Beyonce. When I first met her, it took me, and she had never trained before, and it took me 15 minutes before I had tears rolling down her face, and she was amazed. But it was
How do you
just
do that? What do you say to them when? What is like a private session like with you?
well,
Are
a
you
private
are you
session is
mean? Are you nice? Are you?
all of the above. It's like it depends on what the character is supposed to be about, and how that person responds. Some people freeze when you get mean. Some people will only respond when you're mean. You have to deal with everybody differently. Education is very individual. With her, it was more like empathy and more about like getting into women's empowerment and if you notice that there's a difference between when she was a pop princess to the time that she's become kind of iconic and like one of the hugest singers ever. And that was a difference between her just singing songs about whatever and to doing what we used in all our work was about women's empowerment, women not taking through the history of mankind, it's like women have been like repressed and put down and lesser than and made to feel like animals and religions we have to cover ourselves up and we're dirty to have sex with in a lot of religion. It's just it's the women that have been reviled in the history of history, and she has certain circumstances being a black female from the South that like it's an issue. So we became very tight about the issues that we both had about we were able to like try together, and and if you notice, like what changed her her fame factor was, remember the songs that started making single ladies, all the things about women's empowerment. It was coming from her heart. It was coming from the work we did. She actually gave me a phone call, and she said, "I'm using the work that we did in my music. You could use it in anything," and it changed her world. She used the work we did and the song she sang for the inauguration.
You said you can use this work in anything. I mean, I know you said in Russia people kind of use it as a self-help book, and the lady on the beach as well. How is that? Like, how by getting in touch with our feelings can we be good at our jobs? And how could I be better at this if I was in touch with those feelings? Can you
Well, here's
explain
the
that?
thing. You keep saying acting's about being in touch with your feelings, and I keep saying that's not the case.
Okay, so tell me
The
again.
case is maybe understanding what it is that drives you to be destructive, and oftentimes that connects to your feelings, but it's the things that make us self-destructive, the things that make us fearful, the things that make hold ourselves down, are usually based in childhood issues. We were treated, the way peers treated us, family members, uh, issues that like that surrounded you. Because when you grow up, it's when you become who you are because of all the different input that comes in, and to understand what it is that makes you that way, and then using that information to overcome it. So getting in touch with your feelings is really only a tiny part of what I do. So it's not like let's get in touch with your feelings. It's like let's figure out what makes you so sabotage yourself. What makes you so self-destructive in your relationships and the choices you make in your career, um, in the way you engage people, the way you deal with people. What is stopping you? And so we go into the resource of the psychology of that person very specifically, which often, again, is connected to feelings. So it's not like one, we're not just going, let's go into feelings. They're all together. They're all meshed together. Then we figure, okay, what these fears and issues are, where they emanated from. And then what we do is figure out how to use that information with the goal of the script, and how to, whatever the goal of the script is, to deal with your own personal issues and how to use that goal of overcoming of the character to be your own personal goal, and so it becomes your mission within the script to change that for yourself. And usually that work that you've done in the material, whether it's scene study or it's an actual script that you're performing from other people, actually changes you. It bleeds into your real life because we're using your real life. So we're not just accessing feelings. And to access just feelings is what I said before, which is it's a wank job. You're wanking yourself. It's like I use the example of like you're jerking off when you want to just be emotional. Okay? Now, jerking off is great for yourself, but nobody else wants to watch you doing it. So the thing is, it's all good and pleasurable for you. I'm feeling. Well, good for you. So the point is, you want people to be inspired, motivated, given the hope that they can change their lives via what you're doing. In your interpretation of the script. So anybody who teaches acting and says it's just trying to emote are asking people to jerk off.
Okay,
And
understood.
it's very self-indulgent.
Okay. What do you say, or what do you think when you see characters like a Daniel Day-Lewis go into that Lincoln character for like a year, and he's in character on the set, he's in character off the set, and he said that part of him misses being Lincoln because he was him for like a year. And when you see people dive in, like you said, so much that it affects them on the other side, is that, I guess there's no right or wrong, but is that a technique you teach? Is there a reason for that? Does that work for some actors and not for others? Because that's always fascinating to me.
It works for him. And it's like if people ask me questions, but is it right to do this? And I said, does it work? Yes, then it's right. If it doesn't work, then it's wrong. It's like those are your defining factors. It's like there is no right or wrong in things. It's like you have to, and again, it's like if like Bill Gates said, well, nobody's made computers before, so it's wrong to make them. It doesn't, this doesn't make sense because nobody's done it before. You gotta it's right because it works. It's wrong when it doesn't work. So and if anybody has says, well, what you're doing is the wrong thing to do, is like censoring. Censorship is antithetical to growth. Censorship of any form.
Right. You say a lot of times that I think it's common for people to take their insecurities and the nuances they don't like about them, and we try to cover them up or improve on them. But I think in acting and maybe in life, you're saying that we should kind of embrace those things that make us unique.
They're
and then you
gifts.
said find some humor in it. I just wondered what you mean by that when you talk about that.
Humor is so important. It's a great medicine. It's a great healant. It's like if you're going through, I always say, if I don't care how dark the material is, find the humor. There's always going to be. I think I'm at my funniest when I'm depressed about something, when I'm upset, when I'm angry. It's like people are at their funniest because they're trying to lighten up the darkness, and I think that people respond. Like in a horror film, for example, something funny happens before somebody's head gets chopped off. I mean, it makes the dark that much more dark. So if you get used to the dark, you can see. So like you need to have it's the three-dimensionality of life. It's like we want to laugh, we want to cry, we want it all. And I think humor is a very, very important aspect. So there's humor in everything. You find humor in everything.
Who are some of your favorite male actors and why?
Wow.
I'm thinking old school in my mind, but I don't know why I'm thinking that. But
Well, I don't like to make those kinds of opinions because so many people are good for different reasons that to earmark a couple would just be wrong. I've been doing this 35 years. 35 years of training people, thousands and thousands of people all over the world. And I love them all. I mean, it sounds really weird, and they will tell you, if you talk to any of my students, they'll tell you that's true. And they love me back. We have love stories everywhere. We all reveal it. I reveal my stuff. They reveal their stuff. And we're all like, and I believe in them and they believe in me. And it's like, I don't know, it's a love story. I did a workshop in Berlin, and a bunch of them came out to LA, and it's just like, they didn't want to leave because it's like, and I didn't want them to leave, and everybody else in class fell in love with them, and it's just, there's a lot of love when people are so open and people are willing to cross the lines. It's like when you put yourself in any kind of a box, you become somebody that nobody wants to know. But if you're pushing the envelope and you're crossing lines and you're taking chances and taking risks, those are exciting people. We want to be around them. We want to touch them. We want to be a part of their lives. And so it's I don't I say that just pretty much anybody that you think is great, I probably will think so too.